Hello, my fellow classmates in consumer law. This is my IRAC project, and what I'm specifically looking at is the 2020 presidential election and if any fraud occurred. So the question is that was there any election fraud occurring in Pennsylvania's presidential election? I have the rule so far because I looked at a case called the Republican Party of Pennsylvania versus Bookvars, because this is the only case out of all the Trump campaign's cases that has some chance of going to United States Supreme Court, which it actually has gone to the United States Supreme Court. So I'm going to explain to you why this is such a big deal. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak, before the election, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court made a provision in state constitution that would extend the deadline for mail-in ballots until November 6th. The rules associated with this would be ballots postmarked after Election Day would not be counted. Ballots postmarked before on Election Day would count if received by November 6th, and ballots postmarked ballots postmarked before on Election Day do not count if they're received on or after November 7th. That's a tongue twister for sure. But those rules are pretty much set in the state's constitution a year prior due to Republican-led legislative branch in Pennsylvania with other Democratic members of the legislative branch and the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania came together on a partisan deal to ensure more people could vote, which I think is a good idea because usually Pennsylvania is very split in half when it comes to either being a Democratic or Republican state. So Republicans objected the extension of the deadline from November 3rd to November 6th, and this made Republicans file a separate lawsuit in federal court. Republican legislators and members of the Pennsylvania Republican Party asked the United States Supreme Court, to put the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling on hold, claiming that it was unconstitutional due to having to be constitutionally amended to authorize its provisions. However, doing my research, that it was constitutionally amended due to it being over a year ago and making its provisions over a year ago. So I think that claim actually kind of lacks merit and kind of evidence. And doing this would throw out potentially 2.5 million votes, which is voter suppression, definitely. And most of them would be Democratic vote. But one of the interesting things I found out is that this could also potentially just wipe out the election results in Pennsylvania entirely and direct the presidential election to be handled in the Republican-controlled legislation in Pennsylvania. So you know who their nominee would be. The Supreme Court declined to be like before the election, which I think is a good thing. Let the election results come out, and then you could process to litigation and all that good stuff. But 4 justices actually left the case open for consideration. It was Gorsuch. It was also not Roberts. I know it was Gorsuch, Alito. I think it was maybe Kavanaugh, and I forgot who the 4th one is. But they left it open for consideration to maybe it was maybe it was I don't know who it was. Not definitely Amy Corbett. It wasn't her. But anyways, so 4 justices decided to leave the case open for consideration, and Pennsylvania officials decided after they heard that the United States Supreme Court was going to try to intervene after the election. Pennsylvania officials really wanted to ensure that they would segregate the ballots that were postmarked on or before Election Day, which would arrive up to November 6th. And these are postmarked before Election Day but arrive after Election Day, which would follow the rules considering what was said prior by the constitutionally amended provision for mail-in ballots. 3 days after the election, Trump campaign decided to move to litigation due to the results. He was not satisfied with the results in Pennsylvania due to him winning Pennsylvania 4 years ago. Trump, as a plaintiff, asked the Supreme Court of the United States to seek an emergency order to sequester and not count the votes. That's why you saw the tweet saying "Stop the count," because he wanted to stop the count because it was leaning more in favor of the Democratic Party. Um, the claims that he made were that all the counties were not following Bookvar's memos, and if and that all emergency orders like that, like if he like is putting out an emergency order, it goes straight to the Supreme Court, and urgent matters could be weighed in by one justice, and this one justice was Justice Alito, who issued an order that all ballots received by mail after 8 p.m. on November 3rd be segregated and kept safe and secure in sealed containers separate from other voting ballots. All such ballots, if counted, should be separate, and this is directly from SCOTUS. Alito rejected the request that the votes by mail should not be counted, which I think is a good thing because there's nothing unconstitutional about that for sure. And I think he knows that, even though he's a conservative-leaning justice. But this should already have been taking place due to Bookvar's memo, and if it wasn't, I feel like some election officials would have known that right away. So if there was any evidence of that happening, it would have been brought to light and would have been said. But Pennsylvania responded to the allegations of some counties not following the memos by Bookvar, and their response was there's no evidence that any county is disobeying that clear guidance to segregate these votes, and the Republican Party offers only speculation that certain unidentified counties may ignore that repeated guidance, or that Secretary will inconsistently change course, and that's directly from the Pennsylvania election officials, I'm pretty sure. And if the U.S. Supreme Court was to reverse this decision by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, this would invalidate the votes after the election day. So right now, looking at I wish I could share my screen, but this is like a YouTube, like a photo booth video. Justice Alito initiated that order November 6th, so it was a couple days after the election. Pretty much nothing has really happened. There's just been a bunch of briefs of opposition, just looking at just certain things to see what's happening. So it's being processed in the Supreme Court. It's a pending petition. It's a pending petition. So we're gonna have to see if it's granted or not to be heard by the United States Supreme Court. But the lack of evidence associated with this is it's really evident, and I think the Trump campaign knows that this is the best shot to not just change 100 or 10,000 votes, but to change over 2.5 million votes. And it's going to be a hard one to do because there's also other lawsuits in Pennsylvania about curing ballots, which means like making sure their signatures are validated and they could fix that, and filling in information that they forgot. And also with poll watchers, I think that's one case they did win, saying like ensuring poll watchers are watching people count the votes. But with this, talking about just stopping the count due to people not following Bookvar's memos and saying that it was it's unconstitutional to do this. Well, the only thing I could look back on all the decisions is that this provision was made over a year ago, before COVID and before the rise in mail-in ballots, which I praise Pennsylvania for doing on a partisan agreement. However, there's no merit to this because this was over a year ago they decided to do this. So in this case for Republican Party of Pennsylvania versus Bookvar, I would just have to dismiss the case. I cannot make a ruling. There's just not enough evidence associated with anything that would make me change my mind for either one of them. So I would just dismiss the case. If I had to make a ruling on it, I would go in favor of Bookvar's due to the guidances and the memos to follow and ensure that everyone's vote was being heard. So thank you so much. You guys have a great day.